to be honest, I'm more of an independent populist now as a result of what I've seen happen in the Democratic establishment over the last couple of years, which is this basic culture that says, we know what's best for you, as opposed to we want to hear from you. And that is a party culture that I do not subscribe to and I want to have nothing to do with. And it was honestly the kind of culture that I think Democrats rebelled against Republicans 20 years ago. The family values Republican Party that said, we know how, we want to tell you how to live your lives. And you had a lot of progressives saying like, no, we want to be free to live lives the way we want to. And now you're seeing that culture has infected the Democratic Party. So yeah, I came away definitely disenchanted by the establishment, and I'm not the only one. That's why the Democrats are losing elections.
Yeah. I mean, having tried to do insurgent movements within the Republican Party, having tried to work with the Libertarian Party, I got to tell you that the game is rigged.
Yeah.
And in my lifetime, there's been sort of key moments on the Republican side, much like the Democratic side. What the DNC did to Bernie is almost precisely what the RNC did to Ron Paul when he was running.
Right.
Even at a point where Ron Paul obviously wasn't going to win the nomination, they just didn't want him on the stage, period.
Yeah.
So you have this, and I think small p populism. I call myself a libertarian populist. I think that's the right side of history, because the other side is the machine.
Yeah.
And it's a collusion of government power and corporate power, and I hate it. But the question is, can you break it? And what does a truly democratic politics even look like?
What's so funny about this, like, squashing and even sort of censoring of ideas that goes on, both parties are guilty of this, is in our race, we would always see at these grassroots events that were lighting it up. Like, we would get the most applause out of all the candidates, and you could really feel the energy. So naturally, we wanted to have a debate to be able to really get the ideas out to a statewide audience, and all the other campaigns in the party were making an extra effort to make sure there were no debates. And just the moment that there is a debate and there's no filter, it's just you and a camera and the audience, you could immediately see that kind of electricity come out. Even some of the establishment Democratic pundits the next day came out and said, like, Olikara was the winner of the debate. He had the strongest performance. Where did he come from? That kind of thing. And then, just as those sparks are flying, the Democratic establishment effectively ended the race 10 days before the election. They said, we don't want to wait to hear what the people have to say. We're going to violate our bylaws and endorse the establishment candidate. And I got phone calls from a number of senior Democratic leaders calling to apologize to me why they're not only breaking their bylaws, but breaking their promise that they had made to me to be neutral in the primary. So this parallels the examples that you're sharing too, that there's this fear of what people think. And if you just let ideas breathe a little bit, if you let people express their voices, that's the kind of democracy I believe in.
It's kind of ironic that the Democratic Party
is anti-democratic.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm not playing with words, but I want to define my terms. Like, I would consider myself radically democratic, and by that I don't mean just the idea that 50% plus one wins and then gets to do whatever they want to the other 49.9%.
Yeah.
I think that's a very vulgar and potentially dangerous version of democracy. But I like the sort of democracy, this isn't a perfect analogy, but I like the democracy that is Spotify, where I can listen to my weird, very fringy end of the tail of the internet versions of music that I like. But if someone wants to listen to Taylor Swift, more power to them.
Yeah.
Don't make me do it.
That's a good analogy. Yeah, I like that.
And our politics today is you either get Taylor Swift or what's the most obnoxious country musician? Logan. Most obnoxious country musician.
No, I don't listen to that stuff.
Okay, never mind. My metaphors died, but it would be like forcing everybody to choose one of those two things.
Yeah.
And this is sort of the dilemma, because ultimately, as we get closer to elections, and I think even Andrew Yang ultimately endorsed the Democrat in the presidential election, right?
Right, he did.
Because they make it so that you have to choose their candidate or that really bad guy on the other side, and that we go through this cycle every 4 years, and it's pretty disheartening for anybody that imagines that we could give people in democratic America choices that they would actually be proud of.
Yeah, I think the fear of giving people choice among the establishment is worth kind of analyzing as a psychological phenomenon, because I've seen Democrats make, including in our primary, choices that were prioritizing control over winning. You know, because like in our case, when I was getting those phone calls apologizing why they're breaking all their promises to me, and everyone from the outside is like, "What?" It's kind of like the Bernie moment in when Pete Buttigieg dropped out and Amy Klobuchar dropped out and endorsed Biden, even though Bernie was on his way to potentially win that primary. A similar dynamic happened in our primary, where suddenly all these candidates started dropping like flies. This all happened in like 1 week, basically. And so then all the attention turned to us saying, like, are you going to drop out as well? I got all those phone calls. And I shared with them, these party leaders, are you aware of X, Y, and Z with this establishment candidate? Because it will be an issue in the general election. And they said, yes, we are. So they are aware that these problems exist. And then the other reason was the money. They said, well, we can raise, a little bit more money in the next 10 days. And I said, aren't you concerned about disrespecting voters and not making them feel like they can make their voices heard? And they said, well, it's more important that we can just like raise this money over the next 10 days. And so it's prioritizing money over people's voices being heard. So I think part of the psychological phenomenon here is, you know what you know, and especially in politics, you're afraid of what you don't know. And among these party leaders, they've got into those positions by succeeding under a certain system and maximizing it for their own benefit. And so anything that comes off as a different message or a different system, like I support open primaries to address the kind of duopoly problem you were referencing earlier, I think it's just different. They don't know how to win under those circumstances, so they want nothing to do with it. Meanwhile, if you actually poll this stuff among Americans to make voters have more of a say in their in their leaders, not to have these fake elections but have real elections, people want to be part of that. So I think it's an interesting dynamic, psychologically.
Yeah, and I'll say this, and I'm just going to make a wild guess that you're not a huge Donald Trump guy, but he is the first candidate, I think, in this breakup of the top-down party leadership. He's the first guy to sort of take over a party, at least since maybe since Abe Lincoln.
Yeah.
And watching and now he is the party, so it was impossible to run against him in his last primary. But he broke the system, and the Democrats seem still hell bent on preventing a real primary.
Yeah. I mean, this next one will be really interesting leading into 2028. It will start in 2027, and the positioning is happening now. It can be the first truly open Democratic primary since 2007 and 2008, where not the establishment candidate, Barack Obama, emerged and defeated the Clinton machine, which was, in my view, one of the greatest political victories in my lifetime, on par with Trump winning the 2016 Republican primary against the establishment there. So we don't know yet if the Democrats will have an open primary. I still think the people in charge are still too fearful to have an open primary. And even though the moment is perfect for it, like there's clearly no field clearing candidate, it's wide open. Democrats are in the wilderness now, which usually means a new voice, a new movement can emerge. It's all set up for them, and yet there's a good chance they still shoot themselves in the foot.
Thank you for watching Kibbe on Liberty. You can watch new episodes every Wednesday anywhere that you consume podcasts, on YouTube, on Apple, on Spotify, whatever. Watch, click, like, check it out.